Hi there, warm welcome. Times now, and I'm Meghna Deka. First up on the bulletin, here's an interesting story, an exclusive coming your way. Well, the recent arrests and drug busts by the NIA, NCB and the Navy have revealed a conspiracy which is being hatched in Pakistan by the ISI and Dawood gang to bleed India by 1,000 cuts. Investigations by agencies have revealed that the ISI and D-Company proxy, who handles their billion-dollar illegal drug business and arms trade, is also behind the attempts to revive LTTE. In fact, last month's NCB drug bust on Indian waters off the Kerala shore was worth 12,000 crore rupees, and this has revealed that this consignment was being pushed by Haji Salim himself. In fact, Dawood's closest aide, Haji Salim, is behind the biggest ever drug haul in Kerala. This load was meant for a supply in India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and those arrested by the NCB have now found to be linked with Haji Salim's cartel. Well, after the seizure, NIA has now filed a charge sheet against 13 people, including 10 foreigners, Sri Lankan, as well as the India-Sri Lanka illegal drugs and arms trade. Now, this is related to the attempts to try and revive the terror group LTTE in India and in Sri Lanka. However, this, remember, is not the first time that Pakistan-based Haji Salim's name has emerged in the narco terror case. Well, Haji Salim, who's he? Let's try and remind you of what kind of a person that he has been and the kind of association he's had with the D-Company. He is one of the closest aides of Dawood's drug operations. He's being shielded actively by the ISI. Salim is operating from Karachi and his presence has been regularly spotted at Dawood's Clifton Road residence as well. Well, Haji Salim has been using satellite phones to communicate with his module, which is operating from the middle of the sea. Now, this cartel procures drugs from Iran, Afghanistan and Balochistan. In fact, the consignment was then taken to the Makran coast. The mothership leaves from the port without any drug load, and this later receives the drugs from small boats and then moves to the middle of the sea. In fact, after reaching a suitable and a safe location, its stations were there and waits for the smaller boats to come and pick up the consignment. So it only travels the longer distance. The smaller distances are covered by these smaller boats. In fact, the drugs are then being shipped to India, Sri Lanka and the Maldives. Well, let me go across to Bhavtosh, our senior editor. He's going to help us explain all of this. Also joining us on the show, Colonel RSN Singh, an author, strategic analyst. Bhavtosh, you must explain to us in greater detail about the kind of role that D-Company is doing to push the narco terror proceeds of that into terrorism, actively shielding and now abetting terrorism in the form of groups, organizations in Sri Lanka as well as south of India.
Well, Meghna, everyone thought that in 2009 LTTE was completely decimated, but the recent charge sheet that has been filed by NIA clearly says that attempts are being made to revive LTTE, and this is being done at the behest of ISI as well as by D-Company, and the person who is responsible for this is a close associate of Dawood Ibrahim, Haji Salim. Now, Haji Salim's name first cropped up in October 2020, and that time when NCB and Indian Navy had busted a module in which drugs were being in fact, in a very clandestine manner, being smuggled into India. Since last February, at least 40,000 crores of drugs have been seized by Indian Navy along with the NCB. Now, the charge sheet that has been filed by NIA clearly mentions that refugees who are living in special camps in Tamil Nadu are being weaned in by Haji Salim and others to first be involved in gun trafficking and then also being involved in drug trafficking. The route they are using is first manufacture drugs in labs in Balochistan and also in Afghanistan. These have special codes on the packages, as we can show in our visuals, and then through the coast in Pakistan, through Karachi coast, these drugs are being smuggled through a mothership from Iran. Then they are being brought to Kerala and then even through Maldives. Now, these shipments have been seized time and again by NCB along with Indian Navy. The huge quantity of drugs that have been seized clearly shows that this is a case of narco terrorism, and that's what NCB has found. Even in the investigation that has been carried out by the Federal Probe Agency, that's by NIA, clearly mentions that there is a clear present danger, and that clear present danger is that attempts are being made by ISI as well as by D-Company to pump in money into a moribund organization like LTTE to revive it, and that's what has been mentioned in the charge sheet that was filed last Friday by NIA.
Well, Bhavtosh, do stay on with us. RSN Singh, now this is interesting because narco-terrorism, we've seen that being pushed across from the northern borders of India, from Kashmir, from Rajasthan, from Punjab. This has been happening actively, and steps have been taken to try and eradicate that. But this is very interesting that the narco-terror route is also now leading towards the south. When Pakistan says that their only state policy is to bleed India through 1,000 cuts, it's not just about Kashmir anymore. They are trying to now, as per this report which is coming in, actively trying to raise LTTE as well in the south of India.
This is not a recent development, I would say. This has been happening for some years now. You know, the Kerala coast and the Tamil Nadu coast are being used for narco trafficking. And well, you may ask that why Tamil Nadu and Kerala? Because there is an ecosystem that prevails. And that ecosystem comprises of these western parts, as I mentioned, of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Lakshadweep, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. Now remember that Lakshadweep and Maldives, they are part of the same oceanic ridge. So this has been happening for some time, and of course, I would like to, when I say perfect ecosystem, there is also this, the jihadi ecosystem that supports this kind of this network.
Right.
Like Kozhikode, Kannur,
Right.
Kozhikode, Kannur, Mallapuram area. And of course, the Sri Lankan, there is and this is the same ecosystem which, created the Colombo blast. So you have to conflate this, narco,
So this is very interesting. Colonel Singh is telling us that this is something which pattern has now been emerging for quite some time. In fact, Times Now has spoken to the NCP DDG of operations, Sanjay Singh, about this drug bust. This is what he has to say, that this is narcotics and terror bids which are being made by Pakistan against India. Listen in.
Our initial investigation suggests that it is the Haji Salim network who had organized this particular operation, and they have our reports, intelligence agencies report that this particular network regularly pays to ISI to fund their operations. According to our input, it was
well, this is going to be one of our biggest stories here on Times Now. Thank you so much, Bhavtosh, as well as RSN Singh, for joining us.